the 34th. Well, welcome here to Family Hour of the Yahweh blog. We're here with our full cast of characters. We have up there in the upper left-hand corner, that is Kevin, and he has moved out of my pool. Last week you were in my study, and this week you're in the Ocean Studio. You know, from where you are right now, you could have done the 2-hour blog this morning. You're perfectly positioned to do it. And there we are with Captain Kirk. How are you and the People's Republic of Carmel?
We're getting by. We're under the radar.
You're under the radar. You're trying to stay out of the way of the troops.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, I think California may be one of the few states in the country that has opted out of the union. They have succeeded now that Donald Trump has gone full belligerent. And so you may be in one of the freest states in the country, the way things are going.
Well, I was born in Alabama. That didn't work out too well for those people when they opted out. So be careful.
Be careful. Fortunately, I live out here in a place that is just way too small for anybody to care about. So I think we may be just fine. Where's the sun setting there for you, JB?
This would be Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Gatlinburg, Tennessee, huh? Wow.
Yeah,
okay. It's a beautiful site.
Place.
It's really quite elegant. And where is this evening finding you, Miss Leah?
Very well, sir.
Yes, Leah with the
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Yeah, with Wookie there is over on the left side of the library studio, and then we have at my far right. There he is, handsomeness, master of the cables. There is Rich. So we have a full cast of characters here. We're going to begin, though, not where we left off last week. This has been such an extraordinary week.
Of chaos?
Yeah, they call it a gallows laugh when you make that kind of a sound. I should begin by saying that about 10 years ago, maybe closer to 15 now, I think I was the first to determine that it would be the United States that would be the great betrayer of Israel. Mm-hmm. And that the next Neville Chamberlain would be a U.S. president. His Czechoslovakia would be Israel. His Nazis would be Muslims. Yeah. And I put what I discovered in a volume called Observations. At the time it was called Observations for Our Time. It's now just Observations. It is the third series of the 35 books that comprise Yada Yahweh. And I came to that conclusion, and I think that the evidence that I marshaled for it was irrefutable, based upon a comprehensive evaluation of the first 20 chapters of Isaiah, particularly focusing in this case on the 17th and 18th. And I've probably done now 3 series of Yahweh blog programs since December on Isaiah 17 and 18. It's so important. And my guess is that I have now included Isaiah 17 and 18 and the conclusions that can be drawn from it, from at least 4 other volumes of the Yada Yahweh series. I say all this to communicate the reality that we didn't just fall out of the old turnip truck, as they probably say.
Hardly.
Where we all come from. I've known this now for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And the reason I came to this conclusion is that in the 17th chapter of Yeshayahu Isaiah, the prophet is very specific. He talks about the events that move us toward the time of Israel's troubles. And he he delineates these series of events, and he begins in Damascus. Damascus, Syria is the longest continuously occupied city in the world, and a city that is poisonous to the covenant. The first we hear of Damascus, Abraham is talking about one of his workers that he's treated quite well, and he says, "Can he inherit the covenant?" And Yahweh says, "Hell no." Don't even talk about it. No,
Not a chance.
not a chance. And we find Israel's foes coming from Damascus, and of course, then we have the demon-possessed author of the Christian New Testament, Paul, becoming demon-possessed on the road to Damascus, just as Yahweh had foretold 666 years prior to that date, calling Paul out by name, calling him the plague of death. God's not very fond of Damascus. It's the name in Hebrew would be a weeping sore. And what God says is that the government out of Damascus is going to fall. And, for the longest time, it looked like that was going to happen. And then it became obvious it wasn't going to happen. And then it did happen.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is the Assad regime, both father and son, has, lasted many, many years. And towards the end, Kirk, you were the one who pointed this out to me. And I did the research and verified that you were correct. That going back now 20 years ago, the CIA of the United States deliberately and knowingly tried to pull off what may have been its 100th attempt at regime change. And that the destabilization of the Assad regime had nothing to do with the fact that Assad was mean to his people. The CIA doesn't. All the CIA does is pursue business opportunities for the industrial military complex. And Assyria was buying weapons from Russia. And they wanted Assyria to buy weapons from the United States. And so they came up with this plot to overthrow Assad using Islamic terrorists. And when there was at one time, I used to have this old map of what's going on in Syria, and it was the biggest mess. They would call it a cluster F in the military. And it was brutal because you had Turkey trying to annihilate the Kurds, and yet the Kurds were the primary blunt instrument that the CIA was wielding against Assad. And then you had al-Nusra Front and the Islamic State being also employed to go after Assad until the Islamic State became so brutal against Assad. And then you had Hezbollah working on behalf of Iran to bolster Assad. And then you had the Alawite Muslims backing Assad. And it was this mess because the Russians were supporting Assad and the Alawite Muslims, and the Iranians were backing Assad and Hezbollah that was in this battle. And what most people don't recognize is the Islamic State that was so brutal, particularly to those Yazidi girls, that were so many that were enslaved and gang raped and murdered, and so many men, hundreds of thousands of them brutally, some crucified. I mean, it was really brutal. The Islamic State is a direct result of the United States. We created the Islamic State. And the way we did so is Petraeus, who, by the way, yesterday or the day before was actually interviewing and laughing with Jolani, who was for a while there was the head of the Islamic State.
The snake in a suit.
Yeah. So what happened was that George
Petraeus.
Bush, JWB, lied to the world and said that Al-Qaeda was in Iraq and that Saddam Hussein was supporting and harboring Al-Qaeda. So we need to go into Iraq and to take out Al-Qaeda. And the fact of the matter is there was zero al-Qaeda presence in Iraq. None. Saddam Hussein was a crappy Muslim. He was a really good dictator from the point of view. He wasn't a good Muslim.
Right.
He was a vicious person, but vicious people do the best in Islamic countries because the fundamentalist Muslims are far worse. And so he would not tolerate al-Qaeda in Iraq. But George Bush told the lie so many times that Petraeus, who was the head of military operations there in Iraq, who was the guy that we found out may have gone to West Point, he can't count. And so he came up with this scheme, we'll have one vote per person, we'll have a democracy in Iraq. And it turned out just great, right?
The purple fingers.
Freedom. And of course, there were 2/3 of Iraqis were Shiites. They voted for the Shiite mullahs, and we gave by vote we gave Iraq to Iran. That was stabilized the entire region. So it caused the great migration of Muslims into Europe. It was all a miscalculation by George Bush.
We
and
created the cluster F bomb.
Yeah. So getting to the point of this, when the Shiite militias became so lethal to American troops, because Saddam Hussein's troops that didn't, they may have killed 5 Americans in the entire time. They just vanished into the wood. They vanished into the woodwork. They didn't put up a fight. And the only ones that were really effective at ambushing and killing Americans were the Shiite militias. And so Petraeus came up with this lie that if he armed Sunni Muslims, that they would go after al-Qaeda in Iraq. Knowing full well there was no al-Qaeda in Iraq, what he really wanted them to do is be a counter to the Shiite militias that were bludgeoning Americans. And you might say, well, what a clever idea. Well, the problem with all that is when you arm, which is what the Awakening program did, it gave lots of weapons to Sunni Muslims in Iraq. What do you think they're going to do with them?
Kill you.
You think they're just going to go off and kill Shia Muslims? No. They took over Mosul. They killed almost everyone there. It was, 1 million people died. Mm-hmm. And then with the Yazidi, they were the most ruthless people in the world. And what happened is that when they took those weapons, they didn't want to call themselves the Awakening program. They branded themselves the Islamic State in Greater Syria, ISIS. Mm-hmm. And then when they became more popular, they called themselves the Islamic State. It was America that created them. And it was the Islamic State that Erdogan in Turkey equipped with all of those weapons and the vehicles that caused the blitzkrieg attack that took out the Assad regime. And so you had China and Russia on the side of Iran because of their oil relationships. And you had the United States and Europe on the side of the Sunni terrorist organizations and the Islamic State and the Kurds. And you had the Turks trying to kill the Kurds. Yeah. And what a mess we had. And all because Assad was buying Russian weapons and the CIA and America wanted Assad to buy US weapons. That, by the way, is the same thing that took place in Egypt and why the regime changes constantly occur in Egypt. So many people on X now are condemning Israel for bankrupting America because they get, $3 billion of aid a year, which for America, by the way, isn't even a rounding error. That's... the American government goes through more than that in toilet paper. No, I mean, come on. But nonetheless, they complain about it. But nobody follows through to say, why did America get in a position where it started paying Israelis to buy American products, and to improve those products for the benefit of America, because they have to spend 100% of that product on American product that they contribute to making better. And then America can then send those improved products around the world and make a profit on them. Do you know why America started paying the $3 million a year to Israel? Because America originally was neutral in Israel's defense. So America has never come to Israel's defense, as a matter of fact. Why did America start paying money to Israel? You know?
No.
Yeah, very few people know. When Israel in the 6-Day War was on the outskirts of Cairo and about ready to destroy Cairo, we were in the outskirts of Damascus and about ready to destroy Damascus, and had infiltrated all of that and owned it all. The United States saw an opportunity, and the opportunity had nothing to do with Israel. The opportunity was, if the United States could get Israel to give up the Sinai, they could convince Egypt to take a similar amount of money every year and force Israel or Egypt to buy American weapons. The deal was, you get the Sinai back, we'll force Israel to give it up, we'll give you money, and you buy American weapons and not Russian weapons anymore. That was the deal. And of course, America has made a fortune on selling those weapons to Egypt. In fact, the A1 Abrams tank, the tools were sent to Egypt. So that's the reason America gives money to Israel, was to put themselves in a position where they could sell weapons to Egypt, which is very, very profitable for the United States.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So here we have this prophecy that speaks of the government out of Damascus falling. And for the longest time, Assad, with Russian backing, looked like he was pretty stout. And then the United States ramped up this proxy war against Russia. And for a while, it looked like the NATO and the United States were going to prevail in this proxy war against Russia. And then Russia started clinging clock. I mean, that war has been an annihilation up to this point, despite what Trump said in the Oval Office today. And that's 1.8 million Ukrainians dead to 135,000 Russians. The Russians have claimed all the territory they wanted initially and have cleaned house in it and have decimated the Ukrainian military and have only held off going into Kiev, hoping they could negotiate something so that the war would just end, because all they wanted was to protect the ethnic Russians in the east and keep Ukraine neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So with Russia occupied and Turkey using NATO supplies, the Islamic State took over Syria. And then you had Donald Trump patting up the terrorist, the butcher, this man that enslaved and sold girls, little girls, as sex slaves, who killed their babies and actually fed deceased babies to these women. And if you were too old to be a sex slave, they killed you. And it was just the most macabre behavior in modern history, what the Islamic State did. And Jolani is the head of that organization. And you've got Trump said, oh, handsome guy, attractive guy,
They rebranded,
strong guy, fighter.
They rebranded a snake and put him in a suit.
Oh,
I'll tell you
but
something.
they can shed your scales. You're still a snake.
That's right. I'll tell you something. I think you said it best 20 plus years ago when you said that America was a merchant of death.
Yes, we
I
are.
think that is the most apropos title.
America sells more weapons to the world than the rest of the world combined.
Mm-hmm.
America spends more on its military and dark ops and its spy apparatus than the rest of the world combined.
Yeah.
And by the way, talk about paper tigers, it's the United States. So the prophecy says that Damascus government's going to fall, and we witnessed something about a year ago that no one ever thought could happen. It fell without a fight. Just, and you had a terrorist regime take over, and they have butchered the people. And that's important because the prophet Isaiah talks about what happens after the Damascus government falls. And he talks about this turning out to be rubble in and around Damascus. And there are, I think, 25,000 buildings that have been turned into rubble already.
Yes, there's very few buildings left
Yeah.
intact.
And so it's been pummeled, and just as the prophet said, it is now nothing but a place of
Twisted heap of ruin.
and roaming terrorists. And so what Isaiah foretold is that ultimately they're going to be the source of many thousands of jihadists. They're going to eventually come into Israel, and they're also going to come from the outcasts. They said, the refugees in Jordan.
Oh,
Is
lovely.
what the prophet Isaiah said. Then Isaiah goes on to say that this all is going to lead to the thinning of Israel at the waist, to making Israel indefensible to these terrorists. And if you look at the plans for this Fakistanian state, the two-state solution, the Israel has to be thinned for it to work. It has to be thinned at the place in the midst of Israel where 70% of the population live, making Israel indefensible. And so the prophet said this was going to happen.
Not just indefensible. This is a death wish.
Well, of course. Well, it's not a wish, but it's suicidal.
It's absolute
So
suicidal.
So it said that Israel is going to sacrifice its heart, becoming thinned at the waist. And the prophet went on to say that this was going to occur coterminous with the Shabbat harvest.
Yes.
And the Shabbat harvest, Shabbat is what it said. And Shabbat is, in this case, celebrated. The Shabbat, it would be the 7, because Shabbat means 7. It is 7 years prior to Dod and Yahweh's return, which is in 2033, year 6,000 Yah, which means it is the Shabbat that is celebrated in the 22nd of May, 2026, 8 months from now. So we knew all of these things. We knew that Israel would have a terrorist state, an Islamic state, perpetrated on it, gouging out its heart, making it vulnerable so it could not defend itself, and that this was going to occur prior to the 22nd of May of 2026. That's a lot to know.
Yeah.
But the prophet wasn't done. Now, he not only talked about the next harvest, which is on Towrah, and how that would bring the end to the time of Israel's troubles, and the role that the productive bull, who's this bloodied bull, is going to play in the ultimate redemption of the mortal remnant of Israel. That ends the time of Jacob's troubles. That's the 24th of September, 2026 or 2033. But as the 17th chapter of Isaiah goes into the 18th, there are 72 adjectives, descriptors, that describe a nation that is obviously the United States. And I've gone through this so many times to talk about it's exceedingly egotistical. It is known for its whirling wings, the attack helicopters and its drones. It sends its representatives around the world to influence the rest of the world. It's the ultimate busybody, but yet it's a nation that is swimming in its own drugs, so that it's terribly intoxicated, and it goes on and on about this nation, and even describes it as a representative of Tarshish, which is Carthage, and Carthage is a perfect example of what the United States has become. Carthage, by might of its navy, had bases throughout the Mediterranean, all the way up to Great Britain, England, and then all the way, into the Black Sea and every place else. And so
even over to India,
they were the first to really establish a reserve currency that everyone used. And they had these military bases everywhere in this huge navy, such that if you wanted to buy and sell stuff, you had to include them. You had to go through them. They were the reserve currency of the world. They were the superpower of the world. And they did it the same way the United States did. Rather than the United States conquering countries, we put bases everywhere. I think we have 200 of them around the world. And we use this Navy to project our influence. And then we have the reserve currency. We are Carthage.
Yeah.
And so he described it. And by the time you go through all of these, every single one of them applies to the United States and to no one else. And when you actually now know what we read as we went back through Daniel, where this great betrayer is described personally. He's a sexual pervert. He is a narcissist of unmitigated nature, an egomaniac beyond measure, that he is so duplicitous that the vast majority of what he says is untrue. He is even described as having goatish comb-over hair, as being an exceedingly decrepit and old man. And this is the copper Khan that is also described in the latter chapters of Ezekiel. It is so explicit of Donald Trump. And when you know from Isaiah that the betrayal of Israel and this forfeiture of the heart of Israel and the two-state dissolution occurs at this time, and that it is the United States that is responsible for betraying Israel. When Donald Trump was elected president in November, it was a fait accompli. It was certain. I mean, at that point, it had to be Donald Trump. And then you read all of this that is described of him and his sexual perversions and his confabulation, his grotesque ego, and the fact that he's really an old guy. It says he's long on days. That it is obviously Donald Trump. And now this is exceedingly frightening for a number of reasons, because with the weapons that are at the world's disposal now, where the world can destroy itself, you have the most powerful person in the world being the most demented. In fact, he is, according to the prophets, demon possessed by Satan himself. Now that is an amazing set of circumstances. And then you have to add to that the events of the last few days.
Yeah.
Where Donald Trump went to the United Nations and he gave the speech of, I'm God of the world. I have never been wrong. The world needs me. You can't survive without me. The whole world is hell with exception of me. And it's me, and me. And you're all going to do as I tell you to do, or else. I mean, that was the speech. It was deranged from beginning to end, but it was classic Donald Trump announcing, yep, I'm the guy. I'm what the Christians call the Antichrist. That's me. And then Donald Trump doubles down on Russia.
Yeah.
And, the Ukrainian war, you need to know how it began and why this is so frightening. Because Russia has the most nuclear weapons of any country in the world. And at this point right now, Russia has the most competent military of any country in the world. And the Ukrainian war is a war the United States started. And Donald Trump absolutely knows that. It goes back almost 30 years. I started talking about it about 25 years ago. And was vociferous and talking about how initially the International Monetary Fund was brought in to take Russia out of the loop with Ukraine.
Right.
And I began talking about that on Shattering Myths, and I developed whole programs on it because I knew where this was leading. And then, as you all know, we promised Russia that if they gave up East Germany and East Berlin and allowed them to unify with the Western Germany, that the promise in return is that NATO would never go any closer.
Not 1 inch.
Not 1 inch to Russia. That was Baker's promise, and it was public.
Not 1 inch.
And then all we've done since that time, starting with George W. Bush, is to integrate nations one after another into NATO, which no longer has any purpose. And then George Bush said, I'm going to make Ukraine part of NATO. And then NATO became the site of most of the NATO war games.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Only on a larger scale.
Yeah, and
Right.
being played by idiots. And then the United States deliberately and knowingly overthrew, regime change again,
Yeah.
the elected government of Ukraine because it was too pro-Russian. And so we armed that revolution that overthrew the Ukrainian government. And we even had American senators and the State Department there overseeing it and talking about it in their cables, what they were trying to do. We overthrew the popularly elected government. And then we have John McCain and Lindsey Graham in Ukraine talking to their most neo-Nazi elements of their military,
Yeah.
saying that your war is going to be our war. We'll give you all the weapons you need. You can go and clean some Russian clock if you want to, man. We're there with you. We'll fight this war to the very end. We'll give you every weapon you need to go off and kill Russians.
Duplicitous Americans.
No, this was 7 years before Russia finally said enough already. We can't deal with this anymore. We're going to stop it. We started that war. And now we blame Russia.
Yeah.
And Russia signed an agreement to end the war 3 years ago. And we told Ukraine, don't sign it.
Well, they pulled the same things in Kazakhstan. The Americans took over Kazakhstan as well.
So it is just
Belligerent.
hideous what we have done.
Belligerent.
And you know how many Ukrainians have died? 1.8 million of them.
Wow.
That Lindsey Graham and John McCain have, and George W. Bush and Obama, Trump, now 1 and 2, and Biden have staining their soul. That's how many Ukrainians have died being bribed, having their government bribed, to go kill Ruskies. Why? Because we wanted Russia all broken up into pieces so that American banking and industrial interests could feast upon it. That's why America wanted Israel to attack Iran. They want American banking and industrial interests to be able to scarf it up, control it. We're disgusting. I mean, really, we are disgusting. And so we started this damn war. We won't negotiate a settlement of the damn war. And now you've got Trump saying, oh, the Russians, their economy is faltering. It's going to crater. We demand that all countries stop buying Russian oil and that, and that nobody does any business with Russia. And we're going to put secondary tariffs on any country except of China, of course, because we tried that and they ate our lunch and essentially destroyed what was left of the U.S. economy. So we won't do that again, but we'll do it with everybody else so that we can give long-range weapons to Ukraine. And then you've got Europe declaring war on Ukraine. And you've got Lavrov yesterday in front of the United Nations saying the European Union just declared war on us. Now, why is that important? Because this Antichrist figure, Donald Trump, he starts world wars.
To prove that Putin was serious, he sent a drone that was nuclear capable across the call-in line across Alaska, where you're supposed to identify, and the Russians didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'd just be careful. I don't believe 99% of what I hear on social media. So I'd be very careful. I can tell you that the drones that were in Poland was a false flag. It had nothing to do with Russia. They were duct taped together, for crying out loud. And then there would be nothing. I mean, nothing the Russians would gain by sending those drones. They're all duct taped together. They've got satellites, for example. If they want to see something, they know exactly what's going on. That's satellite coverage of everything. And then the next was the Russian fighters flying over Lithuania or some place like that, and you can see the flight paths. The flight paths are quite well known, and they didn't. It's Europeans desperate for a war. They want a war with Russia. And the United States Trump went from about a fifth flip-flop, and now he wants the war, and in the Oval Office today was demeaning and antagonizing Putin, who, by the way, is the only adult in the room when these heads of state talk.
His
So this
speech at
is-
the UN was just pure buffoonery.
This is where we are, and then if that were not enough, and that's about as bad as it gets,
Mm-hmm.
you got Trump going after the ultimate vindictive, just disgusting personal revenge by indicting a former head of the FBI.
Oh, Comey, yeah.
Yeah, and the two crimes are allegedly obstructing justice and false witness. And I will tell you, there is no time when Donald Trump has not obstructed justice or borne false witness. If that is a crime that we should indict,
Donald Trump.
then he is the most
Stands
guilty
in line.
that's ever
First in
been in American government. It just is reprehensible. And then you have him in the Oval Office today, and he goes on this tirade that says, enough. It must end. I will absolutely not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Good God, man, it's Judea and Samaria. It's always been part of Israel. It was even Israel when the Balfour Declaration was created. It was Israel when United Nations in 1948 awarded Israel statehood. And you're saying that, oh, what the hell? I'm more important than God. So what if God gave it to him? I won't allow it. I'm Donald Trump. I won't allow it. And somebody might say, well, you know, who made you prime minister of Israel? But that's not how he's speaking. No, he's
Far above that.
he's God of the world. He's the great king. Israel is now his vassal. And of course, you might say, well, that's way overboard. No, I'm telling you, Israel is no longer a sovereign nation.
Nope.
If you are a Jew and you live in Israel, you need to know you were played twice over as a fool. Israel is no longer a sovereign nation. You have, because of the way that Netanyahu responded to the Muslim attacks on October 7th, which is exactly how I predicted he was going to respond. And I told the world the consequence of what's going to happen, where he declared war on Hamas as opposed to Islam. And he went in and invaded Gaza, saying that his war objective was to defeat Hamas so that they surrendered, laid down their weapons and left. And so there was no more Hamas in Gaza. And that's like saying, you know, I think I'm going to eliminate all Muslims in Saudi Arabia. Are you crazy? I mean, it was insane. First of all, Hamas is just a symptom of Islam.
Yep.
Gaza is all Islamic.
Yeah.
Hamas is an Islamic organization. If you read the Quran in the 8th surah, Allah says that a Muslim must never surrender. A Muslim must never retreat. A Muslim must never lay down their weapons. That if a Muslim ever retreats or lays down their weapons, that Allah will personally torment that Muslim in the hottest places in hell forever. There is no good Muslim ever that's going to surrender. When Israel shows, you know, the guys in their underwear walking out and here and there and everywhere, they're not Hamas. They're not good Muslims. No good Muslim ever surrendered. So it was impossible. And then if you know the nature of a death cult like Islam, where the only reward Allah demands, again in the 8th surah, Allah demands, and he says there's only two types of Muslims.
Those who fight and those.
No.
Those who die and are waiting to die.
Killing God.
Right.
Waiting.
There's two types of Muslims.
Yeah.
Those who have died
Right.
for me, and those who are waiting for the opportunity to die, killing for me. Islam is pure genocide. It even kills the Muslims.
Mhm.
Allah doesn't like people very much. Well, of course, Allah is Satan. And so you know that under that circumstance, there is a 0% possibility that Netanyahu is going to achieve his war goals. And if you start a war where the war goals cannot be achieved, you cannot win. And you spend life after life and you get yourself in so that you can't get yourself out. And you just keep on letting people die. It's what America did in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at America's response to the Japanese in World War II, we did the same thing. It cost us 300,000 lives to avenge the life of 3,000.
Yeah.
You get yourself in and you can't get yourself out, even when your strategy has failed. And there's no magic bullet this time like there was for America with the nuclear bomb over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Not that that was a magic bullet. It was a horrible, horrible way to end that war. But the fact of the matter is, Israel has got themselves in a winless situation. They could stay in Gaza for the next 100 years. They're not going to have that much time. They cannot prevail. Every Muslim that they kill that is a jihadi, they will make many more. That is the math of religious warfare. And so it's counterproductive. But it's worse than that, because just like America played Israel, so did the Muslims. And this is really embarrassing if you're a Jew. The average IQ of the Muslims in Gaza is in the 60s. I mean, that is subtard. That is below retard. That is subtard. That's really embarrassing. And yet, the strategy of those Muslims in Gaza outplayed the Jews. And that is because those Muslims in Gaza, and there's 4,000 of them, is probably the best guess. 3/4 of them just average Muslims off the street. Most of them in sneakers and jeans, and most of them just walked into Israel. And they continued to walk in wave after wave after hour after hour after hour. And the purpose was not to invade and occupy Israel. They weren't trying to conquer Israel. Are you going to do it? 4,000 jihadists? Are you kidding? Most of them on motor scooters and on foot?
Right.
No. The purpose was to antagonize Israel, both with the hostages and the crudeness, the sadistic nature of those murders and the rapes, so that they would taunt Israel into responding by invading Gaza. That's what they wanted them to do. And you say, why would the Muslims of Gaza bring the hostages back to Gaza to taunt the Jews into destroying Gaza? Oh, because first of all, the Muslims in Gaza look like would view that their death by the Jews is martyrdom. You go directly to Allah's brothel in the sky, where you get to celebrate the Virgin. So it's a win for them.
Win-win, yeah.
And they knew that if Israel did this,
They would get
killed
their state.
tens of thousands of Muslims in Gaza,
They would get their state.
and if they blew up all the buildings in Gaza,
Mm-hmm.
that the whole world would turn on Israel.
And they would
And
get
they
their
already
state.
had all the people in place through the funding of Qatar with influencers and universities.
Tunnels to run into like
Yeah.
little rats.
So they had it all in place to turn the world opinion against Israel.
Mhm.
And when Israel started bombing Gaza, it began immediately with the cry of genocide. And so they did. They turned the world against Israel based upon Netanyahu's rather foolish response to October 7th. And they knew also that if they pulled this off and the IDF didn't respond, that Netanyahu looked like he's an incompetent buffoon, because that's what he was. And so incompetent buffoons have a tendency to overreact, and he did. And he turned the world against Israel. And that was exactly what October 7th, Alaska Flood, was designed to do, because they knew if they did that, they would get the Islamic State carved out of the heart of Israel. Now, when they scream from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, are they looking for a Palestinian state?
Nope.
Hell no.
They're looking for a genocide.
They want to destroy Israel. But if the step is we get a fake Palestinian state right in the heart of Israel, now Israel is indefensible. Now
Then we can be the spear to her heart.
Now the rest of the
Mhm.
Alaska 2.0 is a lay down hand. That means that you're going to have Muslims from Egypt and Gaza and Jordan and Syria and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and on it goes, plus the Muslims from right in the heart of Israel now, all armed to the teeth. Oh, but we're telling you it's going to be a demilitarized zone, and the Palestinian Authority is going to be responsible for it, not Hamas.
Mhm.
Yeah. When was the last time that the Palestinian Authority was over Gaza? They were trounced. They lost the election by 80,
Landslide.
80 to 20 when
Yes.
they haven't, the Palestinian Authority hasn't had a vote in Judea and Samaria
20 years.
in 15 years because they know that every poll they take, Hamas outpolls them 5 or 6 to 1.
Hmm.
They'll last 15 minutes. And they're scum, but they'll last 15 minutes.
That's true.
And now Hamas is over all of it. And it doesn't even matter the name. It could, what did Jolani do? He changed his
Al-Jalani,
name.
he changed his name.
Yeah, from
Put on a suit, changed his
well,
name.
not just he changed his name. He changed the name of the terrorist organization.
Yes.
He went from Al Qaeda to the Islamic State
Yes.
and Syria, ISIS, to the Islamic State to HTS. They just changed their name. Oh, it's fine now. Not Hamas anymore. Not the Islamic State anymore. It's HTS. Don't worry about it now. And it's the Syrian government. And so that's what's going to happen. And Israel is going to be indefensible. And now Donald Trump has said, enough already. It's over. Now, not only did the Muslims play Israel, and talk about a bad situation now. Israel is in a place where they're bankrupting their nation, feeding the people who are devoted to killing them, while they're being blamed for perpetrating genocide for feeding the people that are trying to kill them.
Hmm.
And that's how Netanyahu's war has turned out, while they literally destroy Gaza. So the whole thing, it would have to be rebuilt. Somebody's got to pay for it. It's gone. And so that's the situation. And the moment Israel pulls out, you're going to have every journalist in the world in there, and Israel's going to just be ripped to shreds. Israel doesn't have a friend left in the world. They only had one pretense of a friend, and that was the guy who had been bribed to set them up, who was also playing them. And that's the reason why you get all the lip service from Donald Trump that's favorable to Israel. And you get him selling bombs to Israel. He knew exactly what Israel's going to do with those bombs. And we're going to continue to obliterate Gaza, turn the world against him, so that he was the only person with any influence over Israel. And once he got there, he made his speech today. Enough. It's over. I forbid it. I won't allow it. In his speech, Donald Trump spoke of, and it got all the pro-Israel sites saying, well, he said, no Palestinian state would be a reward to Hamas. That's not what he said. He said a unilateral imposition of a Palestinian state would be a reward to Hamas. The operative word there is unilateral.
Yeah.
Because now that he totally controls Israel, Israel is his vassal. Because
Maybe he has to bend the knee.
only country doing business now with Israel is the United States. The United States stopped sending Israel interceptors and bombs and the like, and stopped selling spare parts for the F-15s and the F-35s and all of this sort of thing, the Apache gunships. Israel's got nothing, literally nothing. It's over. And so Donald Trump controls Israel like a vassal. And he knew that by giving Israel more bombs, that they would obliterate relationships with all other countries around the world, which they have done. They're totally dependent on one man.
Mm-hmm.
And that one man is demon possessed. And he's bribed by Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
Mm.
And
Cheetah McTaco Tits has taken billions.
so he now, 16 billion. So what he now is in the position to do is to say, oh, it's not going to be unilateral anymore. Remember when the time before last when Netanyahu was having dinner in the White House with Trump, and a reporter said, "So what is the status on a Palestinian state?" Trump just giggled and smiled and said, "Why don't you ask the expert over there on the other side about a Palestinian state?" What did Netanyahu said? Well, it's inevitable that there will be a Palestinian state with full autonomy so long as it's demilitarized. It's already been decided.
Mhm. 6 hours ago, Netanyahu gave an address at the UN, and he was attacking the idea of a Palestinian state, and most of the members in the hall walked out.
Before he even got to it.
Yeah.
They walked out immediately as he stood up, because any vote now in the UN would be, what's 190 countries in the world, and there has been one significant country that has voted for Israel, and that one is not going to do it going forward. And 9 other island states. The rest of the world's against Israel. They're completely isolated. And this is all because largely Netanyahu got played by the Muslims and what he did in Gaza. And now you have the person that the prophets have said is Satan incarnate, in charge of betraying Israel, starting world wars. And what we witness today is Israel's lack of sovereignty. Israel now is a vassal. And it's one thing to be a vassal, but this is worse than being a vassal to Nebuchadnezzar. This is being a vassal to the single most dishonest, destructive, and perverted man on the planet, who is now igniting world war with Russia,
Venezuela.
and is sacrificing Israel while destroying the U.S. and European economies. So,
Lovely world we live in.
so you might say, "Oh, well, that's really bad."
It's really bad.
I'm not one of those that says that's really bad. So why would I say that's not really bad news?
Because it proves everything Yahweh has been saying, and we've been saying for years.
Yeah. It validates our interpretation of the prophets. It's exactly as they said it would happen, who would do it, when they would do it, how it would be done, and what the consequence would be. It has been a perfect and complete validation of what we have said over the last 15 years. And the reason that's important is that this presentation that I'm talking about in terms of the proxy war against Russia becoming World War III, and the forfeiture of Israel based upon the United States and Donald Trump betraying Israel. The reason that that's important is because it's 5% of our message.
Yeah.
And if you have this that is so essential to the very survival of Israel, the very survival of the world, the first to recognize and demonstrate that Donald Trump is the person that Christians would call the Antichrist. He's Satan incarnate. If you have proof of all of that, and you've spoken vociferously about it, and you've proven it, and then it happens exactly as you said, with all of these social media posts telling the pro-Israel faction that we're wallowing all over their praise for Trump, and for 11 months I've been saying, don't do that. He is going to betray you. This is when he's going to betray you. This is how he's going to betray you, and he's doing it now. Now, there will be some people that will let that,
Right. He was right. I bet he's got a solution too. Yeah.
I bet he's got a solution. And sure enough, man, I wrote a 5-point solution. It was a 200-page letter to Israel saying, this is what you're going to do, and this is why it will fail, and this is what you should do, and this is why it would succeed. But that's a small part of it. The big part of it is that in these books, we have the only way you can survive this next 8 years. Right here in these books. In fact, if you want to read the one that speaks specifically of these next 8 years, look at the most recent that has just been published, the 9th volume of the Yada Yahweh series. It's Eth Shirah, Time of Trouble. You go to yadayah.com. It's free, like every other book, not trying to sell you anything. Go to it and you will see all of this laid out for you, so you'll know exactly what is going to happen when. We named that, we give you the dates, we give you the players, we give you their motives, we explain all of it and then validate it via Yahweh's prophets. And so if we can do that and at the same time share a reintroduction to Yahweh's name, and reacquainting the world with the fact there's only one Savior, and there's only one Messiah, and there's only one former and returning King.
Dowd.
And it's Dowd. Yeah. And then to be able to prove conclusively that Jesus never existed, that he is nothing but a counterfeit of Dowd, but not just take Jesus away from the world so that the world's most popular religion crumbles, but replace that lie with the truth about who the Messiah and Son of God really is, and how he explained how he would fulfill Passover, unyeasted bread, and firstborn children, giving us the exact day 600 years in advance, and describing 700 years before crucifixion was even conceived by the Romans. He described how he would fulfill Passover by being crucified. And you have throughout God telling you all of this and confirming all of it. And so we're not just eliminating the greatest lie in our world today, that Jesus is a God and that he is the Savior and that he is the Messiah and the Son of God. We not only disprove it, but replace the lie with the most profound truth in the history of the world.
Yes.
It's a beautiful truth.
So, why wouldn't you take this profound insight on what we've said about Donald Trump now for 11 months and what's going to happen, and that it's happening exactly as we said, and then go the next step? And what else did they say? And then look at the evidence in the 5 volumes of Twistianity. It's all proven. I mean, there is nothing unproven. It's undeniable. It's absolutely proven that there was no Jesus, that Jesus is nothing but a counterfeit of Dowd. And oh, by the way, the 3 things that aren't a counterfeit of Dowd: that the Messiah was a God, that that God can die, and the way to solve death is to come back to life again as a physical body.
Right.
Those things Paul all stole. He stole those from Dionysus. He didn't steal those from Dowd, because God's really clear. The Messiah is not God, and God is not a man. And oh, by the way, God cannot die. And a physical bodily resurrection is the dumbest idea in the history of dumb ideas. It's going in the wrong direction. So anyway, all of that's proven. And there's 5 volumes of these. They take everything in the Christian New Testament and translate it from the oldest extant text, the 69 pre-Constantine text, and then provide 4 other translations, and then do a running commentary to explain what the Christian New Testament says here is that they're quoting these passages from this prophet, and they've got it exactly wrong, because this is what that prophet actually said, and this is what they're saying is the antithesis of what the prophet said. And yet do that, 500 times? Pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
But on the same token, in this series, I proved that the only reason we know the name Allah as the false god, modeled after Satan, and we know the name Muhammad, and we're familiar with a religion called Islam, there's only one reason.
Rabbis.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same reason that Christianity exists, rabbis.
Right.
Rabbis made Israel's 2 greatest foes. Rabbis sold Muhammad Talmud stories, which he then attributed to Allah, twisted to serve his situation. The Quran doesn't exist today without those Talmud stories. Yeah. Islam is unknown today without those Talmud stories. And then when the rabbis mocked Muhammad for pretending that those Talmud stories were from Allah as opposed to from them, he was a psychopath and he slaughtered them, creating genocide against the Jews. And the second genocidal attack against the Jews at Kabar is a absolute perfect copy of Alaska Flood. Same time of day, same exact tactics, same shrill Allahu Akbar, same results, same rapes, same tortures, same murders, same everything. 1,400 years apart, but exactly the same event.
Wow.
Also a farming community.
Yeah.
And so no one else has ever done that. And so you would think you would trust the guy that received thousands of death threats trying to protect Israel by exposing exactly who Allah and Muhammad are and what they had to say. So maybe you have to listen. You know, in this series, we explain the future, the next two harvests, Towrah and Shabbat first, then Towrah. It's all shown so that you can know exactly how you avail yourself of the right of a lifetime. You know, the first people ever, 2,500 years, no one knew Yahweh's name.
Mm-hmm.
3,000 years, no one knew that Dod is the Messiah, the Son of God, and our Savior that fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, B'Kodim, and proved it. And so you'd think that you'd go the next step. And, I'm not telling you that Israel has lost its sovereignty and that Israel is going to suffer Alaska Flood 2.0, which is 1,000 times worse. The 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die, which means this is going to be twice as bad as was the Holocaust. For any other reason, that I'd like you to respond, because Yahweh will take you away from that.
Hezekiah proves it.
Hezekiah proves it, man. Yeah. Hezekiah dusted off an old copy of the Torah that they found in a dusty corner of the temple. And they brought it to the king, and he read it and says, "Holy crap, are we in trouble?" Probably used a more explicit term than that. But he says, "We've done everything wrong." And then he had a frank discussion with Yahweh and said, "Okay, I've gone to the Lowy Cohen priests, and there's not a one of them that's clued in. They wouldn't know. I don't know, Passover for Purim. They got no clue. And so they can't do anything. And we've got religious artifacts everywhere, including in the temple. I mean, we got false gods a go-go. I mean, we're a religious whorehouse. It's going to take me some time to get rid of all this religious rubbish and train the priests to
clean it up
and to talk about what Pesach, Matzah, and B'Kodim represent. And oh, by the way, there's 185,000 Assyrians.
We're a little tied up right now.
Not 4,000 jihadists, in tennis shoes. There's 185,000 Assyrians that are the most disciplined army in the world, and they're right outside of our gates. What do we do now? And Yahweh said, "I got it under control. You got your 2 weeks. Get it together." And he did. And they celebrated Pesach, Matzah, and B'Kodim. And they understood what Pesach, Matzah, and B'Kodim were all about. They didn't celebrate Passover for 7 days and pretend it like it was the gateway to freedom from Egypt. No, they understood Passover is the doorway to life. And by the way, I'm going to extend your lives. And Matzah is the time where your guilt is removed so that you can be perfect and enter my home. And B'Kodim is when you become my children. And they had such a fantastic time celebrating it. And Yahweh, with one malach, said, "It's enough for the Assyrians. You're done. Goodbye." And then they had so much fun. They said, "Can we do it again? Can we do Pesach, Matzah, B'Kodim a second time? It's fun. God's fun to be around. Who knew?" They did it again. So that's the message, Israel. You erased Yahweh's name. What a
Told them to go
dastardly
away.
thing to do. I mean, the first statement, Yahweh etched in stone. I am Yahweh. I'm the God who liberated you from slavery. You will not continue to exist with another God in my presence. And then they came up with Adonai and Hashem and G-D. and completely eliminated Yahweh. And the second statement in stone, it says, don't you dare be religious. I don't want you to have a religious image. I don't want you to. So what is this? The Star of David. It's a religious image.
Oh God.
I don't want you to have a religious image. I don't want you to write things that are religious. I don't want you to picture things that are religious. I don't want you to go into a religious building. Don't you have anything to do with religion. And oh, by the way, I'm telling you right now that fathers are going to corrupt their sons to the third and fourth generation by being religious. And therefore, the best I'm going to be able to do is provide mercy to thousands who closely examine and carefully consider the terms and conditions of my relationship agreement. Thousands amongst billions is how many? Millions, right?
1 million.
More than a million. That's where we are. And what did they do? They became religious. And then what's the third statement say? I mean, the third statement, oh my God, yeah, you're right. What's the third statement say? Don't you dare negate my name.
Yeah.
If you have my name be reduced or be for naught, you deceive by anything pertaining to my name, that is unforgivable.
Yeah.
It can never be resolved. So what did they do? They erased his name. And then they claim, oh, but we're in it for Hashem.
Ha! Oh.
Anyways,
Oy, oy, oy.
It's just disgusting. And Israel, after rabbis have lied to you about Yahweh, lied to you about Dod, lied to you about Pesach, Matzah, Bakurim, Shavuot, Towrah, and Kippurim, and Sukkah.
Created the religions that would kill us.
Created Judaism that elevates rabbis when God. Have you ever read about a rabbi in the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms?
so don't use the word rabbi. You're not.
Yeah, man. And when it's when God's writing about teaching his people, what is the number one theme that he emphasizes over and over and over again?
Don't be religious.
Don't be religious. And so the rabbis claim that their religion is what defines being Jewish, when God says, no, it's being a descendant of Abraham, Yishak, and Jacob. They really got it screwed up. And then the rabbis trained Paul to write the Christian New Testament and demean them by claiming that they're the ones that went off and crucified Jesus.
Oh, their God.
I don't know how they're. You know how many people the Jews crucified?
0.
None.
That is the correct number. That is the correct number. So if you were, let's just pretend that there was a Jesus. Of course, there wasn't one. But if somebody was crucified in the first century Roman-occupied Judea, who would have done the crucifixion?
Rome.
Roman occupied? Yeah.
Yeah, Roman-occupied, and the look at what the Romans did during the Spartacus rebellion. They crucified tens of thousands. Yeah, absolutely. The crucifixion is a Roman form of capital punishment. And the Romans, Imperial Romans, became the Roman Catholic Church. So even if there had been a pretend Jesus, he would have been killed by the Romans that became the Roman Catholic Church. And yet, to justify Christianity, Paul and Peter blame the Jews for doing what they would have done if there was a real person.
No, if you sit with the knowledge that without the Catholic Church, the Holocaust could have never happened.
Correct.
And that 6 million people died.
However, it goes way beyond that.
For a lie.
Without Rabbi Akiva, the father of rabbinic Judaism, there is no diaspora.
There is
Yes.
no.
And so there is no one for the Holocaust to kill. And without Rabbi Akiva and the other religious Jews of that era failing to do the job that I did for them by using Yahweh's testimony to disprove everything in the Christian New Testament. Now, there is no reason whatsoever that rabbis should not have been able to do what I did. And had they done so, Christianity never would have existed, and therefore they would not have been persecuted, demonized, subjugated for 18 centuries. And make no mistake, the pogroms and the anti-Semitism that was foisted against Jews that led to the Holocaust was not partly the responsibility of Christianity. It was
Fully.
completely the responsibility of Christianity.
Mhm.
So rabbis have a lot of Jewish blood on their hands, and to get Israel to recognize this and to distance themselves from these parasites, difficult thing to do. I mean,
They are the jackals among
Yeah.
us.
I was wrote earlier today in one of the shorts, Kevin, that you sent me, that Yahweh has asked me to do and us to accomplish together the most difficult job in history. He gave that job initially to Noach, and Noach only succeeded with the immediate members of his family. No one else listened. And that was to draw the people out to the covenant, and Noach succeeded with nobody. After Noach, there was this fellow who had walked out of Babylon with his wife, Sarai, as she was called then. And God articulated the terms and conditions of the covenant to them. How many people did they convince to be part of the covenant?
Three?
3 total.
3
One
total.
son.
Pardon?
3.
Yeah,
Abraham?
Sarah and Yitzhak, 3 of them. Yeah.
Well, I'm not even sure you can. I'm not even sure you can count to 3 because
He was born into it.
because Sarah did not respond to anything Abraham told her about the covenant. I mean, she became the mother of the covenant, if you will, by Yahweh saying, "I'm going to do this through you. Yeah, you might be 90 years old, but you're going to have a kid, and and when I come back to you, 9 months from now, you're going to have a kid." So you can credit Yahweh with that one, right? And so when Yishak is born into the covenant, that's Yahweh's too. It wasn't, in fact, Abraham all the way along wanted Ishmael to be the guy.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd have to say that Abraham was a complete failure.
And a dunderhead.
And he was really a scummy guy. I'm not an Abraham fan. I think anybody that pimps his wife out for sheep. Now, maybe if it was a Ferrari layout, but not.
Well, back in the day, sheep were Ferraris.
Okay, all right. Just kidding.
No.
But he pimped out his wife Sarah twice for sheep. That's not good. And so you're 0 for 2 now, and then you come to Moshe. How well did Moshe do in convincing people to be part of the covenant?
2 more.
Not very.
2. And can we even credit Moshe with them? I've shared Moshe's speech prior to the spies and after the spies, and I can tell you it was horrible.
Mm.
So did Caleb and Yosha ben Nun, did they respond to something that Moshe did or said?
I think
I'm here to tell you no.
The conclusion.
The answer is no. So of the 600,000 that were originally in that cast of characters, Yahweh said, everybody over 20, you're gone. I'm not going to deal with you anymore. You're just dead.
Pile of corpses.
And the 2 people that stood up that were going to be allowed into the promised land, only 2, and one of the 2 was not Moshe, by the way, was one of them stood up and the other one didn't stand down was the best thing. I don't think Yosha ben Nun said anything. And Caleb stood up. He had one speech and Yahweh said, that's my guy. And because Yosha ben Nun didn't say anything bad, he says, that's going to be good enough. But even on Yosha ben Nun, he was one of those that Yahweh allowed to go up Mount Horeb, Torah, to listen to the Torah being recited. So you got to give that one credit to Yahweh too. So you got Moshe with Zippo, not one.
This is depressing.
Yeah, then you've got a really, really smart guy. I mean, I like Shamwell. I think Shamwell's got his act together. He was
Cool.
a judge who became a prophet. And there's some things that, he says, oh, if I'm going to be all afraid of Saul, he's going to try to kill me. You're talking to God. If God sends you on a mission, do you think that this one man is going to have any effect on you? Come on. Goodness gracious. Stop it already. And anyway, but for the most part, he's a pretty good guy. And yet, when the people came and said, we want a king just like the rest of the Goy. We want a Goy government. We want to fight wars like the Goy. We want to have religions like the Goy. We want to have a king like the Goy. And Shamwell went to Yahweh and said, oh, my God, I have failed completely. And Yahweh said, nah, you didn't fail me. They didn't reject you. They rejected me. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, did Shamwell succeed? Even his own sons, they were killed.
Yeah.
So did Shamwell succeed? The answer is absolutely no.
No,
he didn't. All right. Then you go from him to this really handsome young fellow, 8-year-old guy tending sheep out there in Bethlehem. And Yahweh says, that's my guy. I choose him. And Yahweh anoints him and makes him a Messiah and said, you're going to be a king of my people. First things he does out of the chute is he takes down the
loudmouth Philistine.
The foul-mouthed Philistine. Uncircumcised foul-mouthed Philistine.
That's right.
Yeah, by the way, I guess the Philistines couldn't be Muslims because they were uncircumcised. Anyway, he takes them down and he becomes a little hero. Yeah, you're the guy. And then Saul turns on him and doesn't like the competition. And what does Dode do? He runs all over the place. He runs to Moab. He runs to the Philistines. He's running everywhere. He's got his tail between his legs. He doesn't ever once say, wait a minute. I'm anointed. I've got the spirit of Yahweh on me. Yahweh said, you're my guy. What in the world am I doing running away?
I believe you.
Well, yeah, what in the world are you doing? And, in the end, because he didn't respond favorably to his eldest son raping his daughter, and his third son, Absalom, went and killed his firstborn son for raping his sister. Absalom plots against him, and Dode doesn't recognize what's going on, and when Absalom gets a huge number of Israelites and others to side with him, what does Dode do? He runs out of town. He flees. And when you read what happened late in life, it's you've got people pleading with Dode to get your act together. And so prior to Dode deciding I'm going to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim, and that's where I'm going to save everybody that's going to be saved, Dode really didn't have much success bringing anybody to the covenant. Yeah. Now, he is now 100% responsible for everybody that comes into the covenant because he volunteered to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim. Man, he manned up in a big way.
I don't care.
But prior to that, the Absalom rebellion did him in. And then you've got the great prophet Yashayah. He's devoted to Yahweh. He's doing everything that needs to be done. He is just all over it. Boy, we have Wookie and Rich right there. Man, that is a sight to behold. There's a man with his dog for certainty. You guys, you share something in common. Both very, very handsome there. So anyway, you've got
both got hair too.
I'm gonna give you a kiss. I'm gonna give you a kiss for that, pal. Yeah, you look at that. And so you've got Yashayah. You can't be any better than Yashayah, I guess, unless you're rich from Wookie's eyes. And when Yahweh said, "Okay, I want to show you the results," open the door of heaven. There's nobody out there, and poor Yashayah is all distraught, and God says, "Don't worry, but I got a couple of guys. It's going to be good. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make this happen." But during his lifetime, he had not a single success. There was not a single person who came to the covenant because of the prophecies that were conveyed through Yeshua, the great prophet. And now, after 2,500 years, God says, I'm going to change. I'm going to go with a goy as opposed to a Yehud this time. And I'm going to use a goy to finally get my people's attention and bring them home.
What this means.
So when you consider the quality of the individuals that God deployed previously and the result of those individuals, that's a pretty damn tough job that he's said, oh, by the way, have a good time. By the way, and if you fail, I'm going to destroy the planet. So
No pressure.
I see an opportunity. The bar's pretty low, so I see an opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. The bar is.
At this moment, you're the top recruiter of all time. You know that, right?
I think so. I think right now
5.
we are. Yeah, you consider the number of people that are regularly
Yeah,
committed.
you think of all these families that are listening right now.
Yeah.
Shoot.
There's a lot of people on both X and on Facebook too that are regular contributors to the covenant. And when you consider that, we are the all-time high game score.
Uh-huh.
And the game here is eternal life. You would think that offering people freely eternal life, perfection, being adopted into God's family, being enriched, being empowered infinitely, and inheriting the entire universe, which, by the way, is pretty big.
Yeah.
You would think that would be fairly easy to give away. You wouldn't think you would need a world-class team of people to be able to give away eternal life as part of God's family and inheriting the universe, would you?
Yeah.
Why is that so hard? Why is that so hard to give away?
Because they love the
Time
lie.
and effort, and nobody wants to put time and effort into anything. You'd rather have their Christianity, and
The lie is so much more dazzling, isn't it?
What was that, JB?
I said it's because it requires time and effort, and that's two things people don't want to give up. Nobody wants to put the time into reading these books, to studying, to checking it. They'd rather just go with their faith in Jesus and be happy.
Yeah, I think that's half of it. And I think Leo's comment was the other half of it. They don't want to give up the lie.
Yeah.
They're very comfortable. They're very comfortable with the lie. The Christian lie has always been very comfortable.
Dazzling.
Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what you know, doesn't matter what you do. Just believe. And by the way,
Jesus loves all the little children.
Paul never once gave anything to believe in other than believe me. While I'm contradicting God, you should believe that I'm speaking for God, that I am contradicting with every breath.
You've heard it written before, but I, Paul, say.
Yeah.
So the lie, and what happens in societies is that once the lie becomes established, it doesn't matter where it is. Take the Incas with their religion, where they would go out to villages and they would take babies from mothers and say, you're going to have this opportunity to give up your baby to this sacrifice so that your baby is going to be this special child. But as an incentive, if you give us your baby is going to die, but you're going to live. And if you don't give us your baby, we're going to kill the baby anyway, and you're going to die. The Aztecs did the same thing. The Mayans did the same thing. But so did the Romans, so did the Greeks, so did the Carthaginians, so did the Babylonians, so did the Assyrians. So they did the same thing in Sumer. But once you do what the world has done for all time, which is to have the baddest person in the community, the Donald Trump of our world today, establish those who support the government either with politics or with religion, and they all say, yeah, we'll tell you he's wonderful, he's the best. And you get a group of people doing that, and you then have the Trump effect, which is if you speak out against Trump, I mean, he is the Hannibal Lecter of politics. I mean, he will devour you. And so people are frightened to stand up against him. People are wrapped up in all of these promises. And by the time that this person has entrenched themselves, you have believers and you have people shaking in their boots that are terrified. And you got no one else. And it doesn't take a lot. So if you were to look at the birth of Christianity, because the rabbis didn't stand up immediately and say, no, There is no Iusu. There's no Christou. The Messiah is Dode. He told us exactly when he was going to be here and exactly how he was going to fill Passover. He did exactly what he said he was going to do 1,000 years ago at exactly this time. And so you're just simply ripping off the very Son of God and the Messiah. This is really stupid. And if they had just simply quoted the passages, the prophecies that spoke of Dode, recognizing there's none that speak of Jesus, the myth would have been right there, would never have prevailed. But because they didn't, and Paul went about promoting that myth among people who had a complete ignorance of the Torah and prophets. So he could say that Torah and prophets say this, that, and other, and misquote them. They were never the wiser for it. So, and the lie that he perpetrated is he turned his Jesus into a Dionysus, and they were really familiar with Dionysus. Check, why not? And he even had a mommy god, Queen of Heaven, like Astarte and Asherah. So it appealed to everybody, and the god was dying and resurrecting like all the pagan religions that had been there prior, and so it was obviously popular with Romans and Greeks. That was their religion. He just gave their religion different names. Mm-hmm. And they all hated Jews anyway, so that was really easy. All you have to do is hate Jews and believe these new names of the same gods, and you got it. You're still going to have Christmas. You're still going to have Easter. You get the same holidays. You get to worship on Sunday. I mean, it's perfect. You get
same Babylonian sun cross.
Yeah, same everything. Same Trinity.
Just recycle it all.
Same
babies.
Everything. And all you had to do is convince some Romans in particular, and the Romans were a practical lot. They loved to use religion, and they simply incorporated the religion and said, well, we can use this too. It's the same as our religion.
The dope of the masses.
Yeah, we'll use it. And then by the time that they made it the national religion, there was that if you didn't want to be that, if you didn't want to believe that, you were just killed. And that was the way for 18 centuries. So you had to fool very few people, and then you get somebody empowered, and they start reinforcing it, and now it becomes so popular with all the monstrous things that are erected, and so many people saying it must be true, even though it's an obvious lie. People just are like sheep; they all follow each other right to their death. And there are very few people that are willing to be sufficiently attacked and unpopular to say, I'm sorry, but this is a myth. It's a complete and utter lie.
Yeah, it's one thing to keep it to yourself, to say, hey, I know this is bunk, and just go on with your life. And it's a completely different thing to step out into the crowd and say, y'all are nuts, you're wrong, and this is why. It is a completely different... Yeah.
And we can even go one step further on it, which is that as the influencers today are all fooling fools, and they're making money fooling fools. And you go and you tell them,
so true.
I have proven emphatically that what you are saying is untrue. And not only can I prove that, but I can prove what is true and how you can have a relationship with God, and I'm offering it to you free. There is no popularity in giving the truth away free, and there's a fortune to be made lying about the lie.
We would be rich if we were liars.
Yeah.
It's
astonishing where we have come. Now, the other point I wanted to make is that we care about Israel because Yahweh cares about Israel. And God's advice to Israel was, do not emulate the ways of the Goy, which were politics and religion, and with religion embracing politics, with the two being integrated. They call the Babylonian effect. Babylon is from Babel, and Babel means to commingle and intermix religion and politics, truth and lies. And so what God said is, don't do that. Don't follow their religious and political and militaristic ways, right? And so if you look at Israel today, the thing that they brag about all the time is how they're so tolerant, and they have all these Muslims in their midst, and it's the place where Christian population is growing, and they all
The Muslims are the happiest in the Middle East,
Yeah.
and our gays have the biggest parades.
Yeah.
You're
And
idiots.
so here is Israel doing exactly what God said. If you do this,
Mhm.
really bad things are going to happen to you.
Mhm.
And they are now doing exactly what God said don't do. What I'm saying here is not that you should, or Israel should, go off and kill anybody. You don't have to kill them. What is God's primary tool when attacking religion?
Words.
Mhm.
Words. Words wisely wielded. He exposes the contradictions and the idiocy of religion. God's essay on Pauline Christianity, 666 years before it was invented, and the book of Habakkuk, is just brilliant. He destroys the religion with words.
Mhm.
So it's not hard to do. And if you read the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, Christianity is completely annihilated. Judaism is completely annihilated. So you can destroy these things and rid yourself of them by just learning the truth, coming to understand it, and then wielding the truth against the lie. And lies don't like the truth. You can do it all with words. That's why after October 7th, I told Israel that if you were to read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, and you understood Islam as well as I understand Islam, you can destroy Islam with words, beginning with the Dome of the Rock and Alaska Mosque, because that is such a great embarrassment to Muhammad and Islam that story is told. There's no one in their right mind that's going to justify having those blights on top of the Temple Mount, or even think that Islam has 1 ounce of a claim on Jerusalem or Israel.
Yeah, the readership of GDR in Iran proves a lot of that. I mean, that was more. That book was read more in Iran than anywhere else in the world, and you see how secular. I mean, the youth of Iran are.
Right. Yeah. When I wrote Prophet of Doom, we were able with the website to track where the readership was taking place. And the highest readership of Prophet of Doom, which is what became the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, was in Iran, far and away, the highest per capita readership. And at the time, all reports were that 90% of Iranians were Muslims. And now the internal audits of Iranians have 30% of Iranians being Muslims. And the emails that I got from Iranians who were former Muslims now saying that's the book that changed my life. I knew that there was something seriously wrong with Muhammad and Allah and the Quran, and you pointed it out. You explained it to us. And so words matter. Mm-hmm. Israel could have won the war against Islam and saved the nation and not put themselves at the jeopardy so they're a vassal of Donald Trump simply by reading the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion. If every Israeli had read them, it would be over. But by the way, it would have also destroyed rabbinic Judaism, which would have been a great blessing for Israel, because they would have understood that the rabbis are responsible for Islam. And then if you want to understand who the Messiah is, that it's David that's the Messiah, that he's the Son of God and our Savior, you read this, and now you're in a position where you are impervious to attack. Now you're God's kid.
Yeah.
Now you have Yahweh's protection. And so by reading those 5 volumes, you've gone from knowing your enemy and destroying your enemy with words to knowing your God, knowing your king, and protecting yourself with words.
Mm-hmm. Letting them take care of it. Yeah, back to Hezekiah, 185,000 Assyrians gone. Yah took care of that. They didn't have.
They didn't fire an arrow. 185,000 of the best archers in the world, and they didn't fire a shot. So what do you think that 4,000 Muslims with an average IQ of 60 coming in with tennis shoes and garden tools were going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I think a few Malak would have visited him on the way in.
Yeah. I mean, the Malak are powerful. Well, I know so. I've had thousands of death threats and never ducked. It's and we get back to the same thing, fellas, which is just so frustrating. We're offering you eternal life. We're offering you salvation. We're offering you adoption into God's family where you become his kid, where God says, I'm going to enrich and empower you. I'm going to enable you. And I'm going to give you the universe. And we can't give it away. We can't give it away.
And you're the best salesman in the world, remember?
So, yeah, I know a salesman.
You know a good pitch.
Oh yeah, that was one of the passages where we're translating, and God says, "Oh yeah, I got a solution for that. I got a salesman." Well, that's what I did for my life. I was a pretty good salesman. I made millions, and back at a time when multiple millions of dollars was a whole lot of money. You go back 40 years ago, and I was in my young 20s as a salesman, making multiple millions of dollars a year as a salesman. So I was pretty good at it. Here now, I'm offering eternal life
for free
as Yahweh's kid.
And he can't give it away.
And inheriting the universe.
And he can't give it away.
Elon Musk is trying to sell one-way tickets to Mars. I'm offering you the damn universe. 2 trillion galaxies.
So what's it going to take to put you in this fine renewed covenant?
Yeah, fine renewed covenant. I've got a fine renewed covenant just waiting here for you. With
conditions apply.
With a fairly old God, but he's still a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah, 5 conditions.
He's still in prime condition. So his witnesses may be a little dented, but that's okay. We're all going to get buffed up here before long. And by the way, you're going to get 1,000 years on the earth where the entire earth is transformed to the Garden of Eden, and there's no more religion, no more militarism, no more politics, and you get to be one-on-one time with God's beloved son, Dode, our king. And we're going to, just have this great time for 1,000 years. And then we're going to go off and explore the universe for all time with God. And in the very architect of life, you imagine going to a new planet and say, let's make some life. I want to have a flying dinosaur. And you can. And I know you don't, because, what happens if the dinosaur eats too much and decides that you're the wrong time and you're in the wrong place. But I'm not worried much about that. And you're going to be able to talk to the animals. It's going to be just unbelievably fun. And that's what we're offering. And we can't give it away. People would prefer to wallow in the lie and believe in a myth like Jesus or a demon like Allah. To believe that a man who was a pedophile and a rapist and mass murderer, Muhammad, was telling them the truth, as opposed to a guy that's actually offering the truth and for free. And you don't even have to kill anybody.
Huh.
Now, I may not be offering the same kind of reward. I'm not offering you multiple virgins and paradise and rivers that flow with wine. I don't know if that's your thing. Maybe you ought to stay with Muhammad. But you better wonder how in the world he's going to deliver on that promise.
Yeah.
If Allah spends all of his time in hell torturing people all of the time and wants you to die killing for him, I may want to question. I don't think I'd believe that. Or, if you're Paul and you're going to believe the Christian New Testament, Paul wrote the first 14 books, invented Jesus, actually came up with the term gospel, and the first two gospels were written under his instructions. And you then read in his second letter to Corinth in the last chapter, oh, by the way, I'm demon possessed. And I'm demon possessed because I got such a big ego that I got kind of too full of myself. And Satan had to ring me in because, I'm kind of like Donald Trump. Can you imagine what Donald Trump would be like without Satan trying to throttle him back a little bit?
Right.
Yeah, Satan has a type. So here we are, trying to give away heaven. Now,
Now you know how Yahweh feels.
Yeah. Well, you just look at the religious heredity Jews bobbing their heads up and down in weasel hats in their morning suits, and you say, "Oh God, do you really want me to reach out to these people?" He says, "Well, not those, but these over here." Now, to be fair, God is not giving away heaven. He's
No.
actually quite exclusive.
Terms and
And
conditions.
yeah, and there are terms and conditions, and if you don't meet those terms and conditions, you don't accept them. You are not allowed in.
See covenant for details.
Yeah, seek covenant for details. It'd be interesting too that in all of the things that have been written, the first person ever. I mean, maybe you guys have found some other place, but I certainly haven't. Has anybody else articulated the fact that when you read the narrative between Abraham and Yahweh, that there's 5 conditions of the covenant?
No.
No.
I found it. That's the one thing I didn't have a clue about till I met you.
Yeah.
I said,
There's
wow.
5 conditions, and one of them is a prerequisite.
I can search through
Yeah.
the Mishnah and Halakha because they have like online
Mhm,
encyclopedias of their trashy
mhm.
mental
Argument.
masturbation. So no, they don't have it. Mm-mm.
And if
Nobody.
you don't understand what Yahweh is asking of Abraham, because Yahweh wasn't just laying this out. He didn't just say, "Oh, I don't care. I don't really care what you believe. I don't care where you go. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you do. I'm going to give this thing to you no matter what." God didn't say that.
Yeah.
No.
A very clear set of instructions, and only if you accept each of these do you get the prize, which are the 5 benefits of the covenant, which are delivered through the first 3 Moed Mikre, which God's son Dode fulfilled. But I mean, those 5 conditions of the covenant are really important. What's the first of them is the most essential, because if you don't deal with it, nothing else happens from there. God is not going to even talk to you. You can't relate to him. You can't come to know him. And it's the most surprising of all, because what is the first condition of that covenant?
To walk away. Babel.
From Babylon, from your father's house.
Walk away from Babel. The intermixing and commingling of religion and politics, truth and lies, to confound and confuse.
Your culture, your religion, your traditions.
To disassociate from the family of man, from your father's house, from your societal customs, and from your country.
And from your social circles.
Yeah. Now, God's not talking about geography here either.
No.
No, you're still in the United States, all 3 of you. I
Yes.
happen to be outside, and Rich and Leigh and I are on the outside, but you are all still in the United States. It isn't about geography. It's about attitude.
Yeah.
Just
Have you disassociated from politics and from religion, and this intermixing of politics and religion, and from the societal culture? If you've done that, then you have met the first condition of the covenant. If you are still religious, if you're still political,
If you still pray.
if you're down on your knees, you're praying, you're doing any of those kinds of things, then there is nothing that we can do for you. There's nothing that God can do for you. You're excluded. And if you look at everybody that's important in the God story, he found them all after they had walked away from their culture, from the cities, from the religiosity and politics of that community. They had all walked away before God introduced himself. So the very first thing is you've got to be, and it should be the thumb, because it's the one opposing one that's a requirement. You have to walk away from politics and religion first. The second thing you must do, what's that?
Yahweh's name.
Walk towards Yahweh.
Walk to God and become perfect.
Yeah, walk to God and become perfect. Now, is there a path to God anywhere?
Wayne Mikra.
7 steps.
Yes.
7 steps. And the doorway is called Passover, correct? Doorway of life. That's the first step.
Right there.
The second step is over that threshold of perfection, matzah, where your soul is unyeasted of religious and political guilt. And that leads you to Bakurim, where you become adopted into God's family. And then, Shabuah is the 7-fold empowerment and enrichment and the harvest of those who have availed themselves of Pesach, Matzah, Makodim, and Towrah is the first phase, is then an olive gleaning of the final Yisraelites that become members of the covenant, followed
Last
by
chance.
the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, where this mortal remnant of Yisrael is purged of their guilt so that they can receive Dod and Yahweh back to the planet and to Israel and to Jerusalem. And then we all get to camp out with God forevermore.
Reconciled, yep.
Yeah, in Eden as part of Sukkah. That's the path. There's only one path that God provides. That's it. No other. You either accept that path or there is no path. And the first 3 steps of that path provide the 5 benefits of the covenant. So walk to God and become perfect. And how God does that is when Dod opened the doorway to life on Pesach, because Pesach is part of Matzah. Those who became immortal were automatically drawn in through the process of Matzah, where our guilt was placed on Dod's nefesh soul and carried into Sheol to deposited there, never to be seen again. That is how we become perfect. We have no more guilt. What's the third condition of the covenant?
Some hard part.
Trust and rely.
Trust and
The fourth is the one you just mentioned.
Yeah,
Trust and rely on Yahweh. Can you, he didn't say believe.
No.
He said trust and rely. Can you trust someone you don't know?
Nope.
Nope.
Can you rely on something you don't understand?
Nope.
Hardly.
So to trust and rely on Yahweh to meet the third condition of the covenant, you've got some reading to do, don't you? You need
You gotta get to know Yahweh's nature, what he's offering, who he is, who you are, where you came from, where you're going.
read these books. Yeah,
Mhm.
you better
Yeah.
read the books. You need to know who Yahweh is by name, who his son is, what they are offering, how they fulfilled the Moed Mekre, and what it's going to take for you to be part of this covenant. So trust and rely upon Yahweh. And that would also, what that means is, if you're trusting and relying on Yahweh, who are you not trusting and relying on?
The rabbis.
And your
Satan,
politicians.
and everybody else.
Yeah, your military. Yeah.
Yep, your military and your politicians and your rabbis. You're relying on Yahweh. Yahweh says he wants nothing to do with them. He is overtly opposed to politics, government, human government, and religion. And so there you are. You need to trust and rely on Yahweh, which means you need to not trust and rely on those things. The fourth, you've already said the fourth.
Yeah, but I couldn't have done that, and neither would any of us if you hadn't shown us how to translate these things, as well as you had translated them, and then we could verify it. For me, it was all about verifying that, because I didn't want to tell somebody this is what he said, because he said. I said, I proved, yeah, there it is. This is how he came to it. And you can learn that as well. So you can't shamar Torah till you know what the Torah is and how to read it.
Yeah,
So-
it was. You did the same thing, JB. You decided that
Better
you were
than I.
going to do translations, and by the way, most people find that they're really not able to do a translation. Doing a translation of Yahweh's testimony requires a skill set that most people just do not possess, because it's not just go look it up in the lexicon and this is what the word means, because you really have to know how to present that word in that context so that it is consistent with Yahweh's overall message. And so it is actually far more difficult than people imagine. And the translation itself is only of marginal utility. It's the understanding of it by being able to bring related things together, and then to say, okay, here's the whole narrative on the covenant. These then are the benefits. These then are the conditions. Let's look at what each of these things mean and what God had to say about them. So the fourth is that you closely examine and carefully consider the terms and conditions of the relationship. So that is, in fact, I think we have a Wookiee that's trying to cough something up here, like a fur ball or something. That is the fourth condition of the covenant. You've got to be observant. You have to closely examine and carefully consider the things that God has delineated, particularly as they relate to this covenant agreement. And there's a lot to learn. I mean, there's a lot to learn because you really have to understand how the Moed Mikre fulfilled the benefits of the covenant and how they were fulfilled and when they were fulfilled and why Yahweh's name is as it is and why he and Dode both collectively decided this is the way that it should happen. There's a lot to learn. And you have to learn that God is resolutely anti-religious and doesn't like politics either and hates conspiracy. And you need to know what his timeline is so that you know where you are in the whole process. The last one is parents. He says, I want you to circumcise your sons on the 8th day. And if you're a man, I want you to be circumcised because that way you know what it means to be karat, to be cut into this covenant. And you're going to raise your children so that they know what it's like to be cut into this covenant. And that every time that, you enjoy that process of conceiving a family, it's going to dawn on you, this is what it means to be cut into this covenant and conceive a family. And you're going to relate your family to Yahweh's family, make that connection. And just what it is to be cut away from the rest of the world. Now, those are the 5 conditions of the covenant. Unless you accept those, you can't be part of God's family. And if you're not part of God's family, you can't live with him, and there's no life after this planet, unless it is in Sheol. And with that come 5 benefits, and they are eternal life, being perfected by God, being adopted into his family, being enriched and empowered by him. And they are delivered by the first 3 Moed Mikre that Dode fulfilled. That's God's story. That's what we're offering. So it does take something from you. But, Rich and guys, you've all given up religion to be here now. Do you regret giving up religion? Did that cost you anything?
I saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of time. Yeah.
So you have no more donations.
That's right.
No more time worshiping or bowing down.
Right.
And which all you gave up was a lie.
Yeah.
So, how much did it cost you to give up a lie?
It
So
was
you had to
free.
give up religion.
Wonderful.
You had to give up politics.
Okay, too.
Do you miss not supporting, like that last election, you had cackles and then the Antichrist? What a choice,
That's
man.
fine.
Yeah.
It's nice not have to pick a side in that. Yes.
Where is the lesser of 2 evils in that?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't kill each other.
All right.
Leave
So
me out of
that didn't cost anything there either, did it? In fact,
No,
isn't
sir.
it liberating not to be part of those lies anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when Yahweh says, I want you to walk to me so that I can perfect you, was there any part of celebrating Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim that you found, boy, that's really, that is tough, man. God, I have to fix this
roast
damn
that lamb. Wow.
Got to roast a lamb, and
Drink
then
that wine.
I've got to have some olive oil with some herbs and some matzah with it. I've got to do this now for 7 days, and oh my God, what a burden!
I don't know how we get through it.
One of my favorite
How do we ever survive that? Now, in my case, every year when the Passover, matzah, and Bakurim come around, I'm like, yeah, man, this is my time. I love the meal. I love every part of it. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit like Hezekiah because I enjoy the menu of that so much. I do it all year round.
Yeah.
I mean, lamb's my favorite. And Rich, what do I have there at every meal?
Matzah.
Yeah, matzah and olive oil with bitter herbs, right?
Yep.
Every meal. So I do it 12 months a year.
You even like that crappy box matzah.
I do.
Latest matzah.
I do too. I like it.
But the fact
Goes
is, I
good with
love that.
peanut butter too.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Yahweh didn't restrict us. He said, I want you to do this for 7 days. But he didn't say you can't do it for 8 days or 12 days or 365 days, did he?
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you're giving up anything to have a party. After all, who offered the invitation to attend these parties? Yeah. and he calls them chog, doesn't he?
Yes.
He likes the party.
Doesn't chog mean party?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ma'am.
So the creator of the universe says, "Hey, I'm inviting you to a party. I
Right.
want you to come to a party. I'm going to provide all the party favors, and we'll start here, and we'll do this forevermore, in eternity, throughout the universe." Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. If God's going to invite me to a party, I'm going to say yes. Heck,
Can I get to stay?
For Christmas and Easter any day.
yeah. It should be a no-brainer, but definitely we have a lot of no-brains out there. So I don't see how any of that is negative. Then you say, okay, well, the next one. I mean, he's asking you to closely examine and carefully consider the terms and conditions of his covenant, which means you've got to read the Torah. Oh my
Something
God.
new every day, though. Wow. Look at it.
Yeah.
I'm
And
used to, wow.
well, I know I have finally found out that when Yahweh said to me that, I want you to turn on the cameras, turn on the lights, get this microphone, I want you to start talking to my people. And what that did is it took me away from my daily routine where I would sit in this office and I would spend 14 hours a day translating and researching and commenting and coming up with just thousands of insights that were profoundly interesting about Yahweh. And that was like the most fun you can have.
Right.
Really, it was just so enriching and enthralling. And finally, when I went to this and I was doing 3 of these shows a day and I wasn't translating anymore because I was spending the rest of the time on X or on Facebook, I had withdrawals.
Yeah.
It had an effect on me. And I didn't like the effect it had on me. And so I went back to translating. So, I'm doing now 1 or 2 of these. Well, today it's 4 hours of them. But the rest of the time is translating. And translating is really a challenge because there's the superficial. You can go with kind of what everybody else has gone with, and you'll find some justification and some lexicon someplace. Or you can really look at everything and say, okay, if I take this literally and I view this from God's perspective, is there a lesson here that has a interesting insight that pertains to our situation in the here and now? Is there something I can deduce from this that is really meaningful?
Right.
And the answer about 99% of the time is yes.
Yep.
Look
And
at
so-
what you've come up with in numbers.
Well, numbers 15, what are the whole thing? Numbers 5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 19. It's a treasure trove of prophecy, not just of history. And it explains everything that God was going to do and how he was going to solve all of the problems of his people. And it's all laid out for us. And to be the first to find these great treasures and share them, what a thrill. So I can't see how this is a burden.
Right.
Were you guys were reading these books, did you ever say, oh my God, I can't wait till I get to the end of it and that'll be the last one and we'll finally be done with it?
Well, I knew you were
Burned through them, and then was upset that Coming Home 2 took so long to come out.
Yeah.
I want more Dode.
I want more Dode. Yeah, I know. We want more Dode. That's why I'm writing Coming Home 4 now, is because I want more Dode. Dode's great. And he's just the best. But man, what we found out in the Towrah was so spectacular. And we were getting fresh squeezed Dode by doing Daniel because he was the main prophet speaking to Daniel. And every time you go back to Yeshaya, Isaiah, you're getting fresh squeezed Dode too, because he's really focused on everything that Dode accomplished. So it's a marvelous way to invest your time. And the nice thing about Yahweh with investing time is that for every hour that you give him, he gives you like a couple of trillion.
Wow.
So pretty good deal all in all. Well, guys, we have reached the 2-hour point in our hour program.
Did we get to one page? No.
No, we did not. No, we did not get
That's
to
right. Another Friday on our horizon.
another Friday of complete from the heart extemporaneous program. and I have no problem with that. I don't think you guys do
No,
at all.
That's the
No.
best stuff for a Shabbat. Absolutely.
I like
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
The
And
best Shabbat.
particularly where we are right now with Israel becoming a vassal of Donald Trump and the world on the precipice of war, as we are just 8 months away from entering the time of Israel's troubles, and to see all these prophecies literally materializing before our eyes, with coming to realize that Donald Trump is Satan incarnate, and then to hear him at the United Nations make that announcement, and then from the Oval Office to double down on it against Israel. It's just one stroke of another, and you just can't be in a more important place and time with the truth. And even if we have very few takers, for every soul that accepts what Yahweh is offering, that is the greatest treasure in the universe. So we're excited to be able to continue with all of this, and I want to thank you for participating, and you out there for listening. And we hope that more of you, particularly in Israel, decide to accept this marvelous gift that Yahweh, your God, is offering.
Mhm.
Marvelous Shabbat to everyone. And
Thank you.
this time next week, we'll be celebrating Kippurim, will we not?
Yeah.
And Kippurim is, I'm not going to see any of you guys twirling a chicken over your head, right?
I eat my chickens. I don't twirl them.
Okay. I don't twirl them either. So we'll be talking for the rest of this week. We'll be talking about what Kippurim represents, and then what Sukkah represents, and what God has in store. And I can tell you that the rabbis are completely wrong on all of them.
Yeah.
And they were even more wrong on Rosh Hashanah. And this being the first month of the year, it is not. It is the seventh month of the year. And what was just celebrated was Towrah, unless you want to anger and God. If you want to anger God, then you celebrate the Babylonian New Year, and you pretend it's your high holy day, and you can see where that takes you. And I happen to know, but if you want to find out, then continue to celebrate Rosh Hashanah and see where it takes you. I would strongly advise otherwise. Thank you. Been fun. We wish everyone a wonderful Shabbat. We'll talk again tomorrow. Good night.
Night, Leo. See you. Bye, guys.